Welcome to another episode of the Tough Stuff Podcast.
Be sure to like, love, share, or subscribe wherever you may be watching or listening, because we believe God wants to bring encouragement and hope through these stories. What's going on, Tough Stuff?
Hey.
Podcast. How you guys doing today?
Episode 14?
14.
Is that right? I'm almost losing count.
I have no clue.
I'm honestly shocked that we're still doing this. I'm proud.
Consistency.
Yeah.
It's getting to the part where it's like, are we going to do it again, for me, at least?
No, that's not the case for me.
I know. That's why we're still here.
That's not the case. We're going to keep doing this because I feel like God said to do it, and I feel like people are liking it.
I wasn't saying that I don't want to do it. I was saying I feel like for me, you know, and this is kind of something I've always struggled with, is like when the rubber hits the road, you know, when the dust, the glow, the gold fades, you know, it's not the new shiny thing. Are you going to stick with it?
Is the gold of Tough Stuff fading already to you?
No, but it's just like not new. I mean, it's like a pair of shoes, you know. It's not like a pair of shoes.
This is like a journey.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Like, I'm not interested in it being a shiny thing.
Oh, I understand that's not right, Allison. I'm saying it's being honest and vulnerable for the people. People like vulnerability. That is like in that part of the season where it's like, all right, let's keep on moving, even though it's not the fanciest, funnest, newest thing going on in your life. It's just something God's working on me with.
It's fancy and fun for me.
I understand that. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, this is something that I need to work on. You know, I was working on the house the other day, restaining our column the same color that it was before I sanded it down to maybe stain it another color.
Because you got bored of it.
Because it wasn't shining anymore. But I was thinking about our house, man. Our house is amazing. I love it. Just still try to be, and I'm still astonished. You know, I still tell people the next steps. Like, I like, dude, you don't understand. Like, I've got a car in my name, a house in my name. I know these are normal things, but if you knew where I'd been. But I was doing our house, and I realized, you know, I had that quick thought, which you can attest to this. You send me houses like randomly that we could never afford.
It's like a hobby.
But I was like thinking about getting a different house, and then, you know, I felt like God took it as a moment to kind of speak to me as I'm working on the house, and it kind of translated with things in life. You know, the house hasn't changed at all, but our hearts change, you know. And I think it's the same thing. You know, God's working on me and not allowing my heart to change about the things He calls my heart to be steadfast.
That's good. You know, the word I keep hearing about this podcast from God is consistent.
Yeah.
I feel like it is a space that maybe is needed, and we are being asked to be consistent, which is funny because I feel like I'm flaky.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're definitely flaky. And so it's just very interesting how God is stretching us to do this project that we don't really feel equipped to do, but it's we're just trying to obey and create space. It is a stretch.
I think that's part of it too. You know, Mondays, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with our kids. You know, there's literally a million things that we should be doing right now. Laundry, getting our house ready for the week. I should be cutting the grass. Got a softball game this afternoon. I should be getting the batting cages.
Oh, gosh.
But, we know God's called us to do this. So, and you really blessed me. Like, I would have probably dropped out a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
But you've been pushing this thing forward, and it reignites that fire within me, you know. So, you know, God called us to do this, and let's do it, you know.
Well, I think there's a side of this that we're having to rely on God, because at the end of the day, it's like we don't really know who's going to be next.
Yeah.
Or what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And it's like we're letting God drop in our hearts specific episodes over and over, which is like a new level of relying on God that I haven't experienced before, because, you know, we're hosting this platform, and you know, people
are actually
listening, which is like, okay, kind of scary. And, you know, it's like learning how to be faithful with that and steward what God has entrusted us with. Like, we have a community now.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys know, well, if you do know us, you know this, but it wasn't like we sat down a year ago or 6 months ago or 3 months ago or whatever and said, hey, let's go ahead and write out our episodes and write out 14 people that we were going to speak with and what. There was no order. There was no service order.
And I say winging it. We're not winging it. Order. I feel like we're just submitted it. We have submitted it to God.
Yeah. Like, we're just...
I mean, he's faithful to put somebody.
Yeah, and it worked out. You know, I think about Ronald last week. And Ronald,
that episode. If
was awesome.
Haven't watched episode 13 with Ronald Olivier, it is powerful. It was mind-blowing.
It was one of those things, you know, and I guess it was like, it reaffirmed me and reassured me and me sharing my story because I hadn't been blessed by hearing somebody's story as much as I heard Ronald's, you know, and what God has done in his life. But then you think about where Ronald is now, you know, God is, I mean, he's been on 700 Club, he's been in Time Magazine, he's in all these magazines, he's in Texas last Sunday preaching, and then all of a sudden it was like, I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get him on the podcast, and then all of a sudden we had an opening, and God just lined things up, and that's just kind of the way this thing has been going.
Yeah, we had a little get-together for Selah's birthday, and you were like, okay, as soon as the party's over, do you think we could interview Ronald for the podcast? And I was like, Ronald, that guy with that story after Selah's birthday? Why not? You know, and it's just, it worked out. And so he's precious. Loved hearing from him. Loved his humility and his vulnerability. As he shared, you know, what I loved about his story is he took responsibility for his actions, and God blessed him for that. And so it's like this whole picture of like, no matter where we go in life, if we make mistakes or, you know, we're not going to be perfect. But just the thought that if we submit ourselves to God and take responsibility for the things that we do wrong, he's going to bless us and honor that. And so that his story, I mean, I was crying. I've heard other people have been crying. If you haven't watched it, go listen to it and cry.
It will bless you.
He's the sweetest. And then we talked about miscarriage and infant loss the week before with some friends of mine. That was awesome.
Yeah. Maybe it's just been so laborsome for me because it's no, I mean, I'm not. I saw this thing on Instagram that was like, this guy with his wife, and this is a tangent of rabbit trail.
I have no idea what
his wife had just had a baby at home, like no medicine, like full on like the hippie stuff. And then he like went over, babe, you just did this, you did that. He was like, now you understand what it was like whenever I had a cold last week. That isn't what I was trying to say. I think it's laborsome because, I mean, it really is. And this is, you know, I'm new to having emotional feelings. But it's like every episode is like raw and it's almost like triggering to an extent. Like we will end up, like today we're supposed to do so many things after this. And I don't know if anything's going to happen because after we do this, it really is like pouring yourself out for a moment.
Yes. But you know what? I was thinking about this week. My heart for this podcast is that every single person that listens to it would have at least one episode that they completely resonate with and find hope in.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I feel like I'm committed. As long as God is going to bring stories, then I'm going to open up our house and let people tell them.
I didn't say I wasn't committed.
No, I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just saying that's my heart, is that every single person on planet Earth would have an episode to relate to.
Yeah. There's a difference between being committed and always excited. That's just me, you know. You are the most consistent thing.
Seems like you're like really going through some tough stuff.
No, this is like something that God has been working on me through this year. You know, this is like the season that I'm in, is being committed even though I'm not excited. You know?
You're not excited?
It's not that I'm not excited. It's just like in the moment I'm like, whippy, let's set up all the podcast stuff. Let's let you hear me one more time to black out the curtains with our blackout curtains that I'm like taping together because they're all torn up, you know. But it's like, it's just seasons, you know? Like, you really are. You're the longest standing thing in my life. And God's been breaking some things off of me.
Okay.
You know, I haven't had a new pair of shoes in a little while. I've been like,
hello.
you know, just not chasing the shine.
There's freedom in the Pamela house.
It's working. I'm working on it, you know? God's been doing a lot. But, you know, I think ultimately, man, we've had so many great episodes. But I think what the overarching message for me has been to hopefully give hope to anybody and everybody that's watching, whatever season you may be in. I think even though each episode may have its specific message or a specific thing that it's in, I think the overarching message of all of these put together is just the fact of seasons. You know, that people go through seasons. And I don't know where my phone went, but I've been reading in. I'm not about to preach a message. But I did think about this, you know, it's like things are seasons. I was looking at Ecclesiastes 3, and everybody knows it, where he says there's a season and time for everything. You know, to be born, to die, to plant and to harvest, to kill and to heal, kill and heal. But really he goes down to it, and you know, he goes through this whole list of them. A time to scatter stones, a time to gather stones, a time to search, and a time to quit searching. But then he goes on to say, what do people really get for all their hard work? But he says, I have seen the burden God has placed on all of us, yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. You know, and I think about even the things that are not beautiful, the tough stuff, the things that people go through, you know, the seasons that we go through, you know, God makes them beautiful because he makes all things work together for our good.
Yes.
And he says, you know, I've planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. But I think the overarching message of this whole podcast and what people are seeing or the different windows into others' lives is people go through seasons, man.
Seasons.
There are rough seasons, but it's just that it's a, you know, I love that he put eternity in our heart to realize it's just a season.
It's just a season.
Like no matter how hard of a thing you're going through right now, you know, I've been sitting with a guy who's, you know, maybe looking at a divorce and whatnot, and it's like, and I know it's not easy when you're in it, but to help somebody realize when it feels like their whole life is falling apart, no matter how long you've been following Jesus, because that is one fact that we have made resonate through this thing, is even if you follow Jesus, you go through tough stuff. It says there's a time to kill, there's a time for all the stuff, you know, but that is just a season. Like it's not forever.
Yeah, it's almost like this whole idea that the seasons paint the full picture of God.
Yeah.
So like whenever you're in a tough season, you get to experience the comfort of God. You know, God comforts those that he loves. He's near to the brokenhearted. You know, I think the seasons of life, because life is not perfect, the seasons of life, although painful at times, give us an opportunity to experience like the full character of God.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like I feel like when things are going really well and you know you're doing great and everything's good, the level of joy that you experience is different than the level of joy that you would experience like in a valley.
Yeah.
But in that valley, you're gonna experience the comfort of God and the peace of God and just the presence of God.
The faithfulness of God.
That's the thing about valleys and tough seasons is it's disappointing to have to go through them, but I don't know if I've ever been closer to God than in those moments.
Yeah. And it's getting to know him.
Yes.
It's getting to trust him, you know. We did a vow renewal the other day, and there's an amazing couple, great friends of mine, but they've been through some things. Man, their, you know, marriage has been tested, and I just had that thought, you know, trust isn't trust or love isn't love unless it's tested. Commitment isn't commitment unless it's tested. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
And almost like, man, it's just this whole thought of God wants to build trust with you. He's not coming asking you to come in with blind trust. All of a sudden, you're ready to just walk off of a cliff because he tells you.
It's not like sign up for this cult and trust me, you know, or like.
But I just think about the season like we're in now, and it's like it's a different level of trust in a new way. And it's not even like this shiny thing of like, where it used to be like I need to preach from the rooftops, hey, God's going to come through, where you're almost like reassuring yourself. But I know in our season, we're in a different transitional season, that I'm going to see God's faithfulness. And it's because of, hopefully, because of the year that I had last year, and I've seen his faithfulness through that. And the year before that. And it's kind of like that whole thought of, God always told the Israelites, make sure you tell your kids and your kids' kids and your kids' kids' kids about what God has done, and building that trust with them over time. God's just so faithful.
That's so good. So good.
Thanks, babe.
I just love how, people go through different things, and God is the same in all of those different things for everybody.
Yeah.
Like he's like, you can expect God to be more faithful than you think he is.
Yeah.
And so it's in those tough seasons and those tough years, like that year last year, that's where we learned like God is near to us. And so if God is near to us then that means God is near to us now.
Yeah.
And so when we're doing this podcast and we're like, what are we doing? And it's all this thing, we can say with full confidence, like, no, God was there then. And so he's here now. And so, just because he's told us to do this project doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're doing it without him.
Yeah.
If anything, this is nothing without God.
Yeah. Man, you're preaching at me, girl.
Weird.
No, it's just been such a fun season. Just really getting to trust each other more. Our marriage being where it is. I'm just excited, babe. Just excited. Now you done preached me excited. I wasn't excited. I was just committed earlier. But now I'm excited. But getting to work on this with you, and, it's just been awesome.
What was your, let's talk about some of the episodes.
All right.
Like, we also had you and Chris King.
Yeah.
That was so awesome.
Good. Yeah.
And you know what? I had a friend of mine last night ask me. She said it was called Dude Stuff.
Yeah. Like,
does that mean I can't watch it? And I said,
according to the Spotify audience, it does not at all.
No. That episode is incredible. Just so many raw, vulnerable pieces of information.
And I feel like there was so much more you could even expound on that topic. Because we really are in a place where people are, there's just so much exposure. Not even exposure. There's so much predatory exposure. Like things haunting around the corner to get you hooked and to get you stuck.
Yes.
In the whole realm of pornography and all that.
Yeah, even to understand maybe how your teenage sons are doing, or how, the people in your life are doing, or your husband, or, same with the miscarriage and infant loss episode, which, gosh, Camille and Bethany, if you're watching this, you guys are incredible. Just their vulnerability. I remember being a part of those situations, both of them, and they were a part of ours. And to have true friends that can walk with you in those trenches, that understand, there's nothing like it. And so just hearing them share in such a vulnerable way, and that's another episode. I know we're talking about woman stuff and miscarriage and pregnancy, but if your wife or somebody that has miscarried or lost a child, that episode is like having a peek into their soul, because we had 3 different perspectives with 3 different situations of loss. And I just think there's so much healing that happened on that episode,
for sure.
Even just for us, because we were crying at the table. It was just incredible. I just love that that this podcast is starting to generate a community of people who can say they're not alone in something. You know.
And that's what I was thinking. The multifaceted side of the things that God does, talking about seasons or whatever, but even the fact of this podcast, it's been one of those things where people get to share their stories, And I feel like God has brought people freedom and blessing from just getting to share their story.
Yes.
It's brought us closer to the people that we've sat with while they've shared their stories.
Yes.
And you know, the truth is like, man, we should have these authentic, vulnerable conversations in life with our friends. But the truth is, a lot of times it just does not happen, you know?
Well, I feel like we're in a society today that craves authenticity, but at the same time, we don't know how to like steward that with other people.
We crave authenticity, yet on our phones all day long, we look at things that are false. You know, I was trying to think of a word that rhymes with authenticity, but most of the things, you know, we crave authenticity, and I wonder if we crave it so much because there is so much fake on the internet, so much false projection.
I feel like we also live in a society, in a church culture where and I think we've said this, you don't know what the person to your left is going through, and you don't realize that they're going through something hard too.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we walk around thinking nobody understands. And while nobody understands exactly what I've been through, people can relate and resonate with certain things, and we can build each other up in that. We can bring hope to one another in that. And so I think my heart with all of this is just that we would create a safe space for people to share, for people to be heard, for people to be encouraged by other people's stories, and just this whole idea that like we're all going through stuff, and it's like a normal. It's so if you're not seeing everybody's stories and tough stuff and issues every day, you don't know what people are going through.
So hopefully deepen the depth of your perspective on
other people's lives.
You know, I had somebody made some kind of smart comment about somebody else the other day, and literally I don't remember what it was, but it was something like, it was one of those drop the mic things, like I think it was because their dad was in the hospital or something and somebody else had no clue. And they just made this snide remark about them, and you just don't even understand. I'm not saying I'm good at this, because I probably do the same thing. But you just never know what people are going through or where they're at in their life.
Yes. Or you never know, like, what might be triggering to somebody when you are around them. It's like I want to create an environment or, like, just a world where we are informed of trauma. Like, we're aware that people go through hard things, and we conduct ourselves in a manner that is appropriate to that person. And I think about, you know, a couple weeks ago, we were training with Sparrow, and there was a man.
What is Sparrow? I don't think you've ever actually shared on here. There was one time that I shared about, you know, Allison's new season, this job she's in. And you had like, just your new season is ridiculous. It's amazing. Like one day you're like at Mary Market, the next day you're meeting with the FBI. But I don't think you've ever really told people like.
I don't meet with the FBI.
You're in a lot of meetings with the FBI. You don't they don't come to meet with Allison, but they come to meet with the organization that you're working for.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Plug, Sparrow. What is it?
thesparrow.foundation.
I wasn't saying like actually give the website. But go for it.
Well, thank you. But all that to say, Sparrow is amazing. But all that to say, we were in a room training, and this man.
Training what?
On human trafficking.
You didn't say what it was. You still haven't told people what Sparrow is. So inconspicuous.
The Sparrow Foundation is an organization that provides services to victims of human trafficking, and also trains entities in our society that interact with these victims.
Just proud of you.
So we help people interact and, you know, learn the signs of what's going on in human trafficking. Anyway.
Which is so prevalent.
It's so prevalent, but that's not what I was talking about.
All right, you're in this training, in this guy.
This has nothing to do with human trafficking. So, but we were just there for that. So this man comes in, and he's talking about, you know, computer stuff, because we're putting our PowerPoint on the screen and everything. And he comes in and he says, "Oh, I'm not used to this kind of stuff. You know, I'm used to I forget what he said, like pulling people over or he said, I'm used to pulling mangled bodies out of cars. Like he's a police officer. Yeah. And while that is an amazingly heroic effort that he does, what he didn't realize was there was somebody in the room that lost her niece to a drunk driving incident.
On that anniversary or something.
It was a crazy situation. So him just throwing out that graphic, like we cannot be the kind of people that throw adjectives and things out there that could potentially trigger somebody or make them in pain. But I understand that there's a lot of things that could be triggering for people. But that, I was like, my goodness. Like, how about anybody here could have lost somebody in an accident, and that's very triggering. But just this whole idea of like, you don't know what the person next to you is going through. You don't know how they're carrying their pain. You don't know if they're stuffing it down. You don't know if they're getting in their car and they're crying. You don't know all these things.
They're over-spiritualizing.
If they're over-spiritualizing, that's so true. Yeah. You don't know. And so we have to get good at listening to the Holy Spirit about what to say and what not to say and when and how to say it, you know. And not that, you know, every little detail of our conversations needs to be like, we need to be anxious about it. It's just like, have this awareness that people around you are going through stuff.
And I think it's like, you know, Jesus said, they'll know you're my disciples by the way that you love each other. And, you know, we can get on street corners, and I say this, I'm an outreach pastor, but we do get on street corners and give out water bottles or serve strangers that are homeless. And that's not even the context that scriptures, you're supposed to love your neighbor, whether you know them or not. But the context of that actual verse is about believers loving each other.
Wow.
And a lot of times it's a lot easier to give out a water bottle to the homeless guy than it is to give to a soft space to land and listen and be heard to somebody who you actually know.
Without having like the need to fix or respond you know, educate.
Tough stuff is here to create a soft place in others' hearts for people to land, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
For people to, like when you see, it's just creating a genuine, authentic relationship atmosphere of actually caring for people. When you're seeing people go through a hard time, not talking about it unless you want to be a part of the solution, because that's gossip. But also, you know, when you see somebody going through something like that, not asking the what, but asking the why.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It's just like people are always where they're at for a reason. It goes back to that saying, I think you may have been the first person to tell this to me, but I use it as if it was mine and preach it regularly. But most people truly are doing the best that they can with what they've been given. You know,
with what they know.
Yeah, with what they know, with what they have to offer. You know, whether that be the person who is having a rough day at work and is, you know, acts out and whatever, gets triggered at work, or the person that had an absent parent, you know, your parents. Typically, they were doing the best that they could with what they've been given. I feel like just even that statement is such a heart-freeing thing to allow people to be imperfect, to allow people to be broken.
Yes.
You know?
It's almost like this effort of, you know, we have to be okay with being wrong or being unaware of somebody's story, so much so that we're willing to listen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we live in a society today where everybody is like trying to climb the totem pole to be heard or to be empathized with. Like, everybody is like only worried about themselves. Yeah. And so it causes you to struggle to like appreciate somebody else's story and point of view, because it's true that we might have different perspectives on the same situation.
Yeah.
Just as though people will have different perspectives on different situations. Yeah. And so it's okay if you go through something different than I go through something. When we lost our baby, we grieved differently.
Yeah,
and then that's okay. And I think that's something that we have got to implement more in our culture, is that we can love people where they're at and how they are handling the hard things that they're going through.
No, for sure. Allowing space for people
to be themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we don't want to make this world a place where we're trying to conform everybody like us. We want people to feel comfortable in their own skin and heal the way that they feel God is leading them to heal. And heal the way that they need to heal. You know?
Sure.
Like I cannot say how I think you need to heal. It's different. You know what I mean? It took me a long time to realize that.
I was just like, but it took us a little while. But it's that we've learned to trust each other and trust God in each other's lives.
You are not me. I cannot control you.
To not need God in each other's lives.
If I try to give you the same regimen of healing that God gave me, you would not be happy.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't.
And it's like, man, I had a thought and it was super deep and I just lost it. But it's like, it's giving each other, it's allowing God to be God to each other and not needing to be God to each other. I don't need to rebuke you. I don't need you to tell you how you need to deal with your emotions or how you need to heal with this thing with whoever. But I just need to allow God to be God, and I just need to love you as myself, how I'm supposed to. But it's that whole, man, this thought keeps like coming and going, coming and going. But I need to allow you to be you and God to be God to you. Because whenever I am trying to control it and do it the way that I think it should be done, typically that's only for my own selfish reasons anyway. When we're trying to control other people, or even when we're trying to tell other people how they need to heal, it's really to like edify and build ourselves up of, man, I got that wisdom, bro. You know what I'm saying? But allowing, and I think it's like, I had an interview yesterday, somebody interviewed me for their college class about counseling people. And they asked like, all right, well, when somebody doesn't do what you've been asking them to do, but they come back for another counseling session with you, do you cut them off until they do what you asked them to do? And it was just like, no. You know, God walks with people and walks with them while they're broken. We're called to walk with people while they're broken. And yeah, there's a level of boundaries and whatnot. But you don't, if they're coming back for more help, you know, typically they just haven't gotten to the place.
If they feel safe with you to like even sit with you in the midst of their pain or their trauma or their struggle or their shame, even though they haven't gotten to the place where they can fully express the things that they need to express. Like Jesus sat with the woman at the well. Like we have got to get better at sitting with people where they are and being okay with where they are. Like, can we build relationship with people that are further behind than we are? Can we give empathy to somebody who's struggling with something that we used to struggle with and don't anymore? Like we are right now. You know what I mean? Like, can we love people where they're at and support them and cheer them on and give them empathy and come alongside them and encourage them and not be so quick to fix them that they run from us? Like, can we create, this is what God is doing in me right now and what he's putting on my heart in general with people. Like I am having God show me, okay, how to sit with people, how to not speak. You know, that's hard. That is really hard for me. How to not speak. Like how to,
so hot when you said that. I don't know why.
Oh my God. Like how to just listen. How to help people find within themselves the answer. You know what I mean?
Help them to hear it from God for themselves.
Instead of like we live in this like culture where we just want to bark at people and tell them what they need to do, and that only goes so far. If you can sit with somebody and help them do it with themselves, that's everything.
And I think about the masterfulness, the mastery of God and his hand in our lives. Like my year last year was not for me, it was for somebody else, because I got into a place where I'd almost become desensitized to people going through the things that I've already gone through, or through addiction or mental health stuff. You know, it almost, you can easily your heart can become callous where you're like, man, you just need to get it, bro. Like, get up and get it. And so God pulled the rug from underneath me and made me realize, man, mental health, issues, things that people go through are real.
Yes.
They're authentic. And there's also this level of pain doing its work. I've been wrestling with that whole thought of like, where's this line between walking with others and truth? And, I think about the book of Proverbs as a book full of wisdom, or the Bible itself is a book full of wisdom. But I've always had this idea, and I don't know if this is a message or what it is, but like, so wisdom, like the word and the commandments and what God said is, they're almost like a connect the dots draw, and they're the dots. But really, pain is the only thing that gets us from one to the other. And that's almost like what Solomon was saying, where there's a time for everything. There is a time where pain is beautiful because it does its work. There's a pruning, and people will not change until the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change.
Wow.
And God knows that about us.
And he's patient.
Yeah, and he knows he's going to have to get us to rock bottom sometimes for us to want to change, whatever that may look like.
Because he wants it to be our decision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we were saying about others, is like God is willing to be patient with us because he wants it to be our decision to follow him, to heal, to get closer to him. And we have to be the same for other people. We want it to be their decision.
And a lot of times we want to get the trophy of another crown in our heavenly, another jewel in our crown, we try to force it. And then when people are praising God for 3 weeks and then you never see them again, you're like, what the heck went wrong?
Yes.
And it's because they never really made that decision. Because people are so broken.
Yes.
I think a lot of times they make decisions
based
for you.
Yeah.
They want to please you.
Yeah, that's so true.
So they all do what you ask them to do, and they never get it authentically.
When I think about people that have impacted me the most, it was people that sat with me and let me cry, let me express, the pain that I was feeling.
Yeah.
Whether it be, adoption related or miscarriage related or infertility related or all of the things that we've been through. There have been people in our life that have just, God, I think about Brienne. I think I've shared this, but this has impacted me. And I try to do this to other people.
Yeah.
I remember we were outside. I was outside on the phone with Brienne. I can't even remember what the situation was, but I was on the phone with Brienne crying. And I was explaining to her what was going on. I can't remember. I think this is when, remember we had that failed adoption? Before we got matched with Elijah's birth mom, we had a case and then it wasn't a case. It was a failed adoption.
Yeah.
I think it was during that, and I called her and I was sobbing. And literally on the other end of the phone, she goes, gosh. And that's it.
Yeah.
And I was so moved.
Yeah.
Because I know she was genuine, and that was her saying, I empathize with you. I recognize that this is hard. And a lot of times we overlook the fact that that's all people really need. Yeah.
It only took you about 10 years for me to realize sometimes you just wanted to be heard and not me fix it. But that really
never want you to fix it. Ever. God will fix it. I just need you to hear me.
But I think so many people are the other same way. They want, because God is that. Even you look at the Psalms, and David, would cry out, and it wasn't even like God would always come down and just fix it like that, because he knew that pain or whatever the season, when David was in the cave needed to do its season. The cave needed to do its work so that he could be on the crown one day.
That's good.
On the throne one day. And it's just this whole thought of empathy versus sympathy. I don't know if we talked about that on here, but in marriage counseling or marriage workshop, whatever one it was, we've done so much marriage
for Connection
stuff.
Workshop plug. They have one in the fall at Healing Place.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I just ran into somebody at Walmart the other day who just got done doing one at a different church.
Let me give the website, c4cbr.org.
Yeah.
Sign up.
But it was this whole thought of sympathy versus empathy. And sympathy, she said, always comes with a but. You know, it's always, yeah, that must be really hard, but, you know, God is still going to be so good. Or it must be really, but, you know, man, I couldn't imagine that. But hey, at least this and that. And that sympathy where you're always putting yourself above somebody else. And almost like putting your hand down. I think this is a proper illustration. There's a picture of somebody in a sewer. You remember that? And it was like, there's a difference between me sticking my hand down and not getting dirty and not getting uncomfortable and saying, hey, come up here. Hey, you know, I understand that you lost a child, but hey, guess what? You still got 2 others. Thank God for them, brother.
Yeah. People say stuff like that all the time.
Versus getting down in the sewer with them and getting uncomfortable with them.
It's almost like, let me learn from your pain.
Yeah.
Like,
but let me feel your pain.
Let me feel your pain. Yes.
Remember we talked about
yes.
Forgiveness shouldn't rightfully happen in a marriage until you see your pain on the other person's your offender's face.
Yes.
And you know, like it's almost like for me to want to come and ask for your forgiveness, I need to go and resonate in my heart while you're hurting and try to put myself in that pain of what I did to you. And then come apart. But we should also do that for people that are hurting.
Yes. Well, I think everybody requires different ways of relationship, right? So when somebody is healing from a traumatic thing, what they need is going to be different than the person next to them.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to sit and learn from their pain, because you get to learn exactly how to care for them.
Yeah.
You get to learn what to say, what not to say. I remember we were working, or I was hearing the story of a trafficking case, and Miss Alice Cole was meeting with a victim who had autism, which I'm going to bring her on in a few months. I'm so excited. Cannot wait.
Not as excited as she is.
She's excited. And if you're listening, girl, you just wait. But Miss Alice was telling me that she was meeting with her, and she used the word social worker. And to Miss Alice, that word is not triggering.
Yeah.
But to Danny, it's a very triggering word for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And so it was like Miss Alice's ability to say, hold on, wait, teach me what that meant to you. Like, we have to be able to do that. We have to be humble enough to say, ooh, I didn't mean to hurt you, but it did.
Pain is relative.
Yes. And so teach me how, like, what did you hear when I said that word? And so what she heard, it was probably nothing that Miss Alice had heard.
Yeah.
And so we have to be willing to learn from other people and their pain. It's like when people set boundaries with us, we have to be willing to say, okay, you know, why does that matter to you? And adhere to it.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's in life, let alone most people don't even, which I'm not saying we've always been good at it, but especially in our marriage. You know, there's so many things where you get hurt, and I think it's just ridiculous that this hurts you.
Yes.
But it's like, I don't take the time.
And if you're a wife out there and this has happened to you.
Hey, if you're a dude too. Guys have feelings too. But like, it's not a matter of if what I did to you would hurt me. It's a matter of if what I did hurt you. It's a matter of I'm hurt and you need to learn why. Yeah. And you need to be. Oh, I didn't mean it like that. Brought me back. I'm just saying. Like, it's not a matter of who did what and when and how, and it's a matter of somebody's hurt. Somebody's hurt. Yeah. And let's try to figure out why. Yeah. So that we can work to bring restoration and also avoid that next time. You know, we're going on like this weird tangent with this episode. I kind of like it. I like it though, but it's almost like that whole thought of, you know, I guess it's recognition and. I don't know, understand that people have feelings. You know, it's almost like they tell you in kids at school. I think I almost told Elijah to say this the other day, and I realized how backwards it was. Sticks and stones could break my bones, but words could never hurt me. But it's like, I can come home and you're upset, and it can like not faze me as much, or like I can not take the time to understand why you're upset. But if I came home and you had a black eye, or you were on the ground crying, you know what I'm saying, I would be like, oh my gosh, what hurt you? You know, what happened? And it's almost just like not treating each other as just these, I don't know, I was about to say bags of flesh, but not treating each other as resources or as commodities to yourself.
Like you're put on this earth for me.
Yeah.
To give me, you know, the joy that I need, the affirmation that I need, and otherwise, or whatever the transition word I was trying to say, you're actually put on this earth so that we can be one. And so what that means is that I have to die to myself and to see your pain, and you have to do that to me, and we have to do that to others. We cannot go out in the world and put ourselves above other people. We just can't do it.
Yeah, even as Christians.
If you want to like lead people to follow Jesus, we cannot do that.
Yeah,
that's just a no. You know.
Well, I think people, and we live in such a world where it's all about amassing followers, and you know, you projecting this archetype that others should long to be like, and I feel like it's tempting. Because you can amass followers that way. Because they will see you're shiny and they're going to think that you're going to teach them how to get there. But really, you're continuing just to do this and saying you're better than them. You can amass followers by being great or shiny or perfect. But you can connect with people by being authentic.
Yes. But isn't that what everybody wants?
Yeah.
To be connected. To be known, to be resonated with, to be empathized. Is that not the cry of every heart that would ever listen to this podcast? I know that's the cry of my heart. Like, we all just want to be known. And you cannot know somebody unless you get into their trenches.
You can't be known or loved without being fully known to be fully loved. You know, I think about David. You know, King David, not Pastor David. King David, though, and I've been, you know, this verse stuck out to me so long ago. And, you know, living in the church world is very easy to get sucked into Christian celebrity and followers and looking perfect because you want to get whatever. And it's so sad. It's so easy to get sucked into it. But I remember when I first got saved, I read about David's mighty men. And it was all like misfits and rejects and, you know, all these people that followed him while he was in some ways, a rebellious season or whatever. But they went on to do great things. And then I just came across that verse again, doing the Bible recap deal. And it was like, I started to realize, you know, David's guys weren't the like shiny people that knew how to do everything. But it really was. They were the ones that had been banished from town. They were the ones that nobody wanted. But I feel like they connected to David because of his season, the season he was in. Like, he was in a season running from the king. He was in a season of being rejected.
Yeah.
And it's like I look at almost a group of guys that, like, when we came and worked out the other day, like these little small groups of guys that I've started. And it's these guys that have been through a lot of stuff or going through a lot of stuff. But it's almost brought me more genuine connection, like it's blessed me. Me trying to bless them and open up a place for them.
Because if you've gone through something tough, you can sit with somebody. It's easier to sit with somebody when you've gone through something tough, you know?
And not just try to preach at them, but to do life with them. Work out side by side with them. Sit with them.
Yeah, and I think there's something to, like, giving somebody else something to offer you. You know, like being willing to not be like up here in a relationship, even if the person is not as far along as you are. But being willing to have that give and take brings value to people in the middle of their struggle.
When they have something to bring, when they have something else to offer, whatever it might be, you know? Yeah. It's good.
Wow. Well, this has been a great episode.
Man, are we landing the plane?
I guess so. We might as well. I don't know.
I mean,
what do you want to do?
I don't know, babe.
I think we should make you initiate the end.
All right. Hey, so before we even get into that though, well, I don't want to turn the corner like that, but like, we want to hear from you guys. Like, seriously, you know, and maybe this is just me trying to get some edification to keep moving, motivation. No, but we want to know, man, how these things are blessed you, man. We want to get this out there. We believe not that it's about getting us out there, but I believe, man, we have a great, I don't want to say following, but we have a great group of people that have been listening. But I know there are people out there that can be blessed by these stories outside of our circle, you know. And I was just thinking about even, you know, getting these different collaborations. You're looking at me like you're truly concerned about what I'm about to say. But we've been having these different, it's been cool to see the different people that we have. It's almost like that story of, you know, we always preach, hey, you have a platform. It may not be this stage, but you have a platform to preach the gospel from. But it's been cool to see the different people that come along that we do these collaborative deals with, and then the reach that their circle brings in, you know, and how people from their circles that have no connection to us are blessed by this podcast, you know.
Yes.
And so it'd be great, you know, to start this movement of sharing and following and letting people know, you know, creating this movement of just people, a place for people to be real.
I love it.
You know.
Wow. That was great. Well, I think you should do the honors.
Man, you're really ready to shut this thing down, huh?
Do you have more to say? If you have more to say, we can do it.
Like we always say on this podcast, life can be tough, but God is still so good.